Welcome back. It's another episode. I'm pretty excited today because I've got Jill here, who I believe it's your first time on the podcast, right?
It is, yes.
You a little nervous?
A little bit.
A little nervous, a little excited.
Yeah, all of it.
So today we're going to be diving into operations, the world's funnest thing, right? Pure execution. That's what the world doesn't like to do.
Some of them, I love it.
I know you like to do it.
Yeah.
I know you like to execute. It's been a joy to... How long you been here now?
I would say 4.5 months.
So about 4.5 months. Mm-hmm. So let's start there, right? I think the question that I would have for you, right? You've been in different environments, good, bad, and different. What would you say, is the biggest difference that you see inside of our environment compared to maybe what you've seen in the past, what you've seen in the external environment, or what has created excitement and or differentiation around, executing in the operations world here compared to executing in the operations world somewhere else?
That's a loaded question. But all right, let's start there. I would have to say that the parallels that I see here to what I've done previously is that I've always worked in really fast-paced environments. So it was always either like startup environments or, owner operated. So the owner very involved still in every parts of the business. So I'm used to very fast-paced environments. But I think what's different here is the dynamic between the different teams, and that also within the company, everyone is I think really open into receiving and giving feedback. And that just creates another layer of, movement and speed. Because I think what I've seen here is that importance of right person, right seat, and you are not wasting any time on moving things around if you see an opportunity that fits better. So that just adds to that pace, I think.
So you kind of touched on it, but I think it's important. I want you to go back and touch on, everyone says we're super fast paced, right? And the reality is a lot of people don't fit in here. Mm-hmm. And they always throw out the excuse of, you guys are super fast paced, right? When we get investors that come into the office, we get anybody, right? It's always like you're fast paced. Mm-hmm. Describe to me, in your world, what that means to you. Why? You said it. Why? What do you mean we're fast paced? Like, we're running a business. Everybody's running a business. Why are we fast paced? And what does that look like maybe compared to what isn't fast paced, or what you mean by saying we are fast paced?
I think the difference here is whenever you have an idea, the decision follows right after this based on the idea, and the execution is almost starts at the exact same time. Yeah. So you make a decision, and we do research that is necessary, but we also don't want to lose ourselves in detail. So it is more important to keep moving than to just be stagnant, because we waste a lot of time finding the right way to execute. So we can always then pivot if we are realizing that we might have started something that is not fully going in the right direction, but at least we're moving. So it just happens at the same time. The idea, the solution, the execution is all within, one circle.
So it's a good way to describe it. Let me ask you in your opinion, what's more important, fast decision making or executing on whatever decision is made? Because in your answer, you gave both, right? You said the thing that makes us fast paced is we're always making decisions, we're making them quickly, and we're executing. And so the speed from which we're solving a decision and executing on it is the same, and that creates fast pace. So my question back to you is what is more important, making those decisions or executing very quickly on a decision that you made?
Making the decision.
Making the decision.
Yeah, because you see a problem, you want to make a decision to solve the problem, but then there needs to be a phase where we have to all be on the same page on how to move forward and how to solve the problem, because we also don't want to just jump the gun and then pivot, and completely roll back, because that's just wasted time and resources. So we want to make sure that every decision that we make now and the execution part, we are set ourselves up to scale. So this needs to fit now, but it also needs to fit in, 2 years from now, especially with that vision that we have that is pretty clear.
Yeah. And I think that I agree, right? Because at the end of the day, you said, look, at the end of the day, decision making is what's more important. And you have, of course, you mentioned already, you got to execute on that quickly. That's what's more super important too, which is make a decision, execute on in the time between the two. Mm-hmm. You then said making a decision is more important of the two, which I completely agree with. The way that I equate that to, which I preach till I'm blue in the face and will tell everyone in the world, the most important thing in any company is clarity. Mm-hmm. And so is decision making not creating clarity for your team?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. Like, and so how do you as a business owner create more clarity? And so solving that is really important. Let me equate that back to you, Jill, right? So your job and to be formal and be clear to everybody, right? Jill runs operations. She's on a SteelPoint Capital leadership team, which means she runs she's director of operations across the company. So she's running all of our operations across our parent company as well as assisting a lot of our subsidiary companies that we own and operate and help their leadership teams manage and operate, right? And so it's a lot of execution, it's a lot of systems, it's a lot of AI, it's a lot of process orientation, right? It's a lot of getting us completely organized, and clarity is certainly king when you're, or queen, or however we want to call it, when you're setting up a bunch of operations inside of a business, right? So it's like we're selling something and we're executing on something, but how are we getting from sales to execution, and how are we doing it quickly, and how do we make sure that everybody involved in that process has extreme clarity, right? Which is the key to all of this. What do you think that we do well here in order to get clarity quicker that you like? Or how are you adding to that? Like, what are we doing here collectively that is creating success, doing what we're doing, which is creating a very fast-paced environment, right? Because the right way, because I think creating a fast-paced environment could also be detrimental to the business if you're not creating the clarity that you need in the decisions that you're making, and everyone's just running full speed in different directions. Yeah.
I think I would have one very clear answer, and I think this is the EOS system that you're running your companies on. I have not worked in an environment before that has applied the EOS system. While a lot of companies might have the idea and have adapted some parts of it, because some is also like common standards, but to have that system in place and every single one of our portfolio companies runs on this system, it doesn't leave any room for misinterpretation. So it couldn't be more clear to define the rules, to define timelines, but also hold people accountable. And I think once that clarity is there, and you have to also answer in front of a group or a team, you create that ownership that you like. It's really like people's like egos and I don't know, like their, how do you say, like proudness, like falls into this, and they want to make sure that they have accomplished their milestones that they have agreed on at the beginning of the quarter. So I think that's definitely what differentiates you.
What's the biggest surprise to you in a good way in the 4.5 months you've been here, your introduction to EOS, because you didn't run on it prior? And so obviously there was a little bit of learning curve here early on. Obviously you had to read a book and whatever else, right? But what did you say is the biggest surprise to you as far as the structure, infrastructure, running operations you've been doing it your whole life, right? That EOS, like, wow, this is even better than anything I've thought about in the past.
I think it's the way it's broken down is almost like, well, yes, a lot of people think that way, but I think it's the documentation behind it. Like at the moment, you actually really take the time having a quarterly full day to prepare this and put all the thoughts into it and have the feedback of the group to define the goals for the next quarter and then put it into that framework that EOS is providing is, I think, really making a difference. You actually can see it and you can see your progress, and it doesn't leave any room for misinterpretation because everyone can check in at any point to see exactly where they stand, but everyone else does as well. It's not just the individual.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly a system, right? Like it creates a real system, real clarity, real organization to exactly what needs to happen in order to create success in the business. I think my favorite thing of EOS, bar none. And we actually had a conversation this morning about this in a one-on-one we had, which is, to me, with who I am and how fast I run and the fast-paced craziness that I create, clarity is everything. And I think a lot of times when you're running super fast, what can get messed up is clarity of the people following you, right? Like if you're running full speed, they lose you, right? You're too far ahead of them. They can't see you in the distance. You're a little speck. All of a sudden, they don't know where they're going. They get lost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so you equate that to business. A lot of times that happens. And so EOS creates the ability for us to see ahead in what we have working on and massive accountability. And so for me as a leader that's running full speed, creating chaos, right? I have a tendency not to slow down enough in order to ensure that people have the clarity, number one, but number two, are accountable to what they're supposed to be doing inside of the chaos that I've created. And EOS creates automatic systematized accountability and clarity for everybody involved. And so it allows me to do what I'm good at, which is run full speed while there's a system in place that captures
like that safety net.
The safety net of everything else. And I personally no longer have to hold people accountable. They have to hold themselves accountable if they're going to run on the system. And so they have to not only get in front of a bunch of us every single week and say whether they're performing what they said they would do or not, they have to do it to themselves. Right. And so you and I, every single week, we've got to get in front of each other and ourselves and say, did we do what we said we were going to do last week?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one part that you've just touched on is the idea of, the to-dos. Well, everyone has like a to-do list, but at the moment you are actually not getting it down to what you have agreed on in the time frame that is, set beforehand. It automatically gets bumped onto the issue list. And that is really where I feel like that accountability is stepping up even more because, well, you haven't done something in the first place that you have agreed on doing. So it moves to the issue list, and then you really have to actually explain yourself in front of the group, like what happened and where the roadblocks. So either we are solving this right there and then, or we need to actually, really ask the entire team for feedback on how to solve this. But the dynamic between like to-dos and like issue list is something that I feel like creates that clarity that you have mentioned on the way to reaching those goals that we have agreed on in the first place.
Yeah. So, right, along those lines, but a little bit different here, more thinking about vision, where we're going, what excites us, as opposed to the execution and accountability side, which is everything. But that's operations, right? At the end of the day, operations' job is to execute on whatever the most important things in a company are. What of the 4 core values that we have, right? And so just maybe to take a step back to inform our audience, right? Like Joe and I had conversations many months before you started here, right? And we really enjoyed the conversation, but we weren't really sure what role we needed inside the company. And then, time had passed by and we really were just looking for a lot of talent to come in and kind of create an organization here. We went back and, you were super excited to want to come work here. And so it really fit overall, right? What, maybe not necessarily what excited you about, I'm the man, of course, I excited you to want to come here, right? No, but the core values, like what are the core values, resonates with you when you came here, resonates with you now, still excites you, or really is the reasons like, man, point back to that core value anytime you're like frustrated or upset. It's like, this is why I get motivated when I wake up in the morning to go to work and execute and do all the things you're doing for the business. Like what core value excites you?
It's how close this business is embedded locally here and how the relationships with people in the Pittsburgh area have like started and developed and also manifested over the years, and to see the presence of SteelPoint in the area is amazing. But through these portfolio companies, you're touching so many different people with so many different backgrounds. And I feel like it brings it all together because you all of a sudden see the parallels, but also overlap. So someone comes in as an investor and all of a sudden gets actually excited and maybe, challenging themselves and getting into real estate in the area. So getting out of their comfort zone because they're exposed to the entire ecosystem. that we are providing here is actually pretty amazing to see. So this is something, it's like everything is local. Everything is like happening here right in front of your face. And it's not compared to, I don't know, like a big corporation where, you know, you're a number and you don't know who you're actually working for. Everything is very anonymous. It's the opposite here.
Get me granular into a project that you're working on and how you're executing a project to make the company better.
Okay. So for example, some things have still been run on spreadsheets.
Okay.
Spreadsheets is, you know, usually how, you know, companies start. You're a couple of people, you want to start tracking things. You start with spreadsheets, the spreadsheets grow, the teams grow, everything gets more complicated, layers are being added. Well, you open yourselves up to a lot of like risk because there's a lot of like manual steps, but also more and more people have access to that data. So moving away from things like this entirely is really the goal here. So processes and systems have to be put in place where people have access, but the access is also defined on each person's role. But then using those systems to do reporting, for example, without manually putting numbers together, this becomes the source of truth. This is what we can use for cash forecasting. This is what we can use for marketing. This is what we can use for business development and sales. So this system that we put in place for local first landing in this case influences the entire team's day to day because
how they work.
Exactly. Everything becomes more efficient, less risky, and it really is a lot of like basis to decisions that they have to make every day in each department.
How are we thinking about implementing AI in everything that we're doing? So we're making processes better. We're automating processes where we can. We're creating processes and systems where we can, is what you said there. And so my question is, how are we thinking about automation and AI when it comes to, right, the world of fixing the processes and the systems of everything that we're doing today?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of systems that we are putting in place today have already a layer of AI integrated. So all the softwares that we are actually right now implementing have a certain amount of AI already as part of it.
Okay. Meaning the software company itself is using AI to
Exactly.
better its software.
Exactly. What we can do is just basically connecting it with what we are using internally. So our teams use Claude, for example. If this is something that we can build out more and really use it to our advantage, for example, replacing manual steps that a VA would do, for example.
Okay.
So something that, you know, if I think about like specific people, they have limited resources because they just have 24 hours in a day. And using their resources and skill sets better because some of the steps that they're doing every day can be replaced by AI, I think that helps everyone.
What's it been like coming here and immediately needing to roll out an entire portal for 150 plus investors?
Yeah, challenging because I feel it's really important to me to understand the process. So to a certain part involved in like the process optimization, but also then the investment side and the lending side. So for me, I had to dive into each of those processes with each member of the teams to understand as much as possible in the shortest amount of time what they're doing, so we can actually make suggestions on how to make things more efficient and better. But I need a lot of their input, and they have been all like very patient in like training me and doing working sessions to really get me to the point where I kind of understand their day-to-day without knowing every detail. But it really helps me to create that picture and to get an idea of, okay, like where are the roadblocks? Because if you're in that day-to-day, you're often losing that bigger picture. You're so focused on getting the things done that need to be done that you might not question too much of, you also don't have the resources and the time to look into what we can do more efficient or better, or what systems are out there to replace certain manual tasks.
I got so many good questions for you. I can go all day. As a new leader, come in, when you're trying to understand a bunch of different processes, there's a bunch of moving pieces, right? It's maybe not always fully implemented, right? Because, we're growing and processes aren't all there. You're not here to put certain processes and make them work. How do you get people that are on your team or aren't even on your team technically to teach you or, educate you on a process of which it's like, I got to go educate my boss on how I do this? What the heck, right? How do you get buy-in for people to have patience, to teach you, to educate you so that you can help them do their job better?
Yeah. I was very lucky because, first of all, everyone was very, very open to take the time out of their busy day to include me in that and to teach me. But I think the bigger picture for everyone on the team was, all right, if we are able to automate some of the things that I'm doing, then I can also take that next step and, utilize my resources in a different way. So I feel like everyone gets excited because they really see the vision and they see the direction that we are going to. And I think it naturally just honestly excited everyone rather than thinking that it's or being focused on the time spent with me to train me in what they're doing.
So flip the script. Lots of processes, lots of people, lots of efficiencies to be had, lots of systems to implement, lots of processes to improve, lots of automations to be had across SteelPoint, across Local First, and across all of our other businesses. How do you figure out where to focus and prioritize your time?
That's definitely the biggest challenge. So I feel one of the things that I have done early on in my career that I know I have to stick to a schedule. Like for me, it is really important to have a structure in place that works for me. And I swear by blocking time off on my calendar and really prioritize things and stick to it as much as it is possible. Now, of course, there's always things coming up that are more important. And then you have then you need to just, change as you're going and reprioritize. But I feel like this is also what, I'm talking to with like the different teams to try to stick to the structure that you've put in place that works for you. And for me, this is honestly like just blocking time on my calendar to really focus on certain things that otherwise would just be getting lost in all the noise.
And of course, the rocks in the US probably help, right? In terms of, I think you have like 30 this quarter, which is a
something
no-no
like that
in the US. But that's your own fault. You kept taking on more rocks. What, how do you think about, focus? How do you think about priorities? How do you think about how to do a good job when there's so much going on in the world, so much exterior factors involved? You come from a different country, right? I think anyone that has watched a podcast up until this point understands by your accent that you probably didn't grow up in Mount Washington like I have. You don't speak yins or e's like I do.
Not yet.
And so I'm sure that's a big dynamic for you. Obviously, with AI in the world today, with war across, multiple separate countries and everything else going on, a lot going on internally in America. How do you focus on your job?
Yeah. It's definitely
in your life, right? Like how do you stay grounded?
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. Certain days more than other days. But I feel like what it naturally also created is a huge amount of gratitudes. I feel like we are in this crazy times that is actually laying heavy on me to be transparent, and maybe also with a different background and moving here and becoming a citizen just a year and a half ago. I feel like it definitely is an extra layer of, heaviness it naturally created. But on the other side, I see all the good things that we are doing here. I see the impact on the community here. I see how happy people are working here, how a lot of them say on a daily basis, little things like that flexibility that we have to be able to combine a job and a career with family life is so much worth. It's amazing. Like for me, I never have to worry that I'm not able to, now my kids, I have 3 boys, they're home for summer. It has never been an issue if I text in the morning saying, by the way, I'm working from home today, and everyone in the different teams from all companies are able to do that and take advantage of this. These are the little things that I feel like are just incredibly valuable, and to like focus on those things and what we are creating here and the movement and how many lives we also impact in a good way is the other side of that happiness. So it's definitely important to focus on those and then hope that we will at some point take another direction and things are in general getting better.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's hard, right? It's one of those things where it's like, if you can, which is impossible, and then what you're talking about, it's like we got to choose our hard, certainly, right? And then it's like, Ed Milet, famous, world-renowned speaker, is always like, be where your feet are. You know what I mean? It's like, we're here, we're doing so much good, we can only control so much. Let's focus on that and not focus on the uncontrollable things that we may not like as much, right? So
Absolutely.
I was able to just grill the heck out of you for a good half hour here with questions. Anything that you've been wanting to ask me, or anything you want me to speak into the camera?
No, it wasn't even that bad as I expected it to be. No, I can honestly say it's been amazing being part of this team. I feel like the 4.5 months, it feels much longer in a good way. And I'm incredibly thankful for each person that works here and the dynamic that we have created. And I feel like just the whole thing is like the energy and where things are going. I feel really good about this. So, yeah.
I love that. One question I want to ask you before we sign off. Why operations over sales?
I definitely like being behind the scenes. While I've been in sales for quite a while, I like to solve problems, which I hate doing puzzles, by the way. Like, don't ever give me a puzzle. But I like to solve problems. I love hearing discussions about where things are getting challenging and right away think about like, how can we solve that? And how would this, if we solved it, impact everyone's daily work life in a good way? So
said another way, right? Like fundamentally, how can I help solve an issue or a problem compared to convincing somebody to do something?
Yeah, some people, I feel like it's just like natural. I feel like if I look at TJ, it's like there's no way that he should be anywhere else but sales.
Yeah.
And it's amazing seeing him thrive in this environment. And I love being the person supporting this with processes put in place so he can actually do his job in a much more efficient way and scale this to, wherever it goes.
Hey, we taking it to the moon. Let's go. We'll catch you on the next episode. Give me a like and a follow. Check us out. It's never perfect. From Jill and I, we appreciate you. Catch you next time.